Hey guys, welcome back to my new PlayStation 5. Today we're gonna go back to the PowerWash simulator. Working here on this house. This detached house. I don't know what else to call it. I'm gonna quickly set an alarm for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to go to bed. And I'll explain why. So, I just spent a couple hours working on an assignment for an English class I'm taking, which I'll talk about a lot more in just a moment. How effective is that? That's pretty effective. And the point is I spend so much time on it, and now it's 12:40 in the morning, and I have class at 8, so I want to wake up at 7 to get ready, and then get on the bus that I have to take to get to campus, and all that stuff. So if I get up at 7, then I want 6 hours of sleep, not 6.5, because you want it to line up with your cycles, which are about 90 minutes. If it takes me 10 minutes to sleep, I'm pretty tired, so I don't even know if it'll take that long. Then I should go to bed in 10 minutes at 12:50. So that I'm asleep by 1, 6 hours till 7. You see, if I go to bed right now, I might get the 10 extra minutes too much, and I could interrupt the cycle. So I decided I will play this for 10 minutes. I don't know, maybe that's stupid. But I was just working on an assignment for a class I'm taking that is about, it's called Intro to World Literature by Women. So it is a gender studies class, which I never really thought I'd be taking, if I'm being frank. But I needed an English credit, and I really like reading, and I actually, my first 2 weeks of the semester, took this class alongside an American ethnic literature class, and I had to decide between the two because I couldn't take 6 classes this semester on top of 2 jobs and a relationship and other things. So I ended up dropping the other one because I didn't like the professor's teaching style as well. Very interesting professor, and I kind of regretted it a little bit just because he was so interesting. But I really did not prefer his writing style, which included having elements of the class taught by, in fact, like at least a third of the class taught by students, which wasn't interesting to me in the form of teaching or in the form of learning. I felt like I was being potentially robbed of that experience, and furthermore, the texts in that class were mostly short stories, and I was more interested in reading novels. Speaking of, I just had to write a discussion board post, yay, for Sally Rooney's Conversations with Friends, and this is coming off of having just finished Pride and Prejudice in that class, which is very, very interesting because Pride and Prejudice, early 1800s, I believe, 1813. I could be totally wrong about that. It wasn't like 1853. It was definitely earlier. I feel like I'm going crazy. I should know that date. Wow. But then Conversations with Friends was like, I don't know, 2016. Less than 10 years ago, 10 years at most. And Sally Rooney references Jane Austen as part of inspiration and things like that, and very different takes. They're both clearly, okay, you can argue Jane Austen, honestly, and that's like a whole debate, actually, genuinely, but I think it's very likely that they are both feminist adjacent inspired, something like that, you know what I mean? They have a focus on how women are intended to act in certain situations, but anyways, I just had to write a post about how, coming off of Pride and Prejudice is pretty conservative still in some ways, because early 1800s British woman, oh my gosh, at that point it wasn't even really, it was considered scandalous for a woman to even publish any sort of writing at all. It's the very nature of the text being published when it did, which was published anonymously, is interesting in its own right. But another thing that Jane Austen did that kept things in check a little bit is that it never mentions sex in any way. At least not explicitly. There are some sort of innuendos here and there, but for the most part, it's very tame. It doesn't mention it really at all, which is in direct contrast to, so far, Sally Rooney's Conversations with Friends, which explains it in detail, not in terrible detail. I'll add. It doesn't read like smut, but there are certain paragraphs that go into detail, or certain moments rather, where like some part of the sexual experience has relevance on the plot or on the emotion, and so it is explained. But regardless, another thing, and probably the most important thing in this whole discussion, is how, despite being overtly more capable of talking about sex in the novel, Sally Rooney very deliberately hides a lot of the emotional impact and emotional transparency of these characters in the novel, and I think that's really enlightening, and I just wrote a whole post about it, including citations from the text. There are certain moments where, and I mentioned this before in a different PowerWash simulator video, but Sally Rooney does not use quotation marks a la Cormac McCarthy for dialogue, and so we have moments here and there where one of the characters will be like, "I said yes." It is written in first person, however, it's very limited first person. We're never directly told the emotions of the main character, and I only have 3 minutes before I need to go to bed according to my timer, so I can't get too depth into it with like pulling open the book and giving all the citations and all that. But there are so many moments where this emotional opaqueness creates an ambiguity that lends itself to the nature of the text in terms of establishing an intense, tension between the characters. In terms of, it's hard for us to understand the main character's emotions, but it's also difficult to understand and learn about the emotions of all of the characters. Which, like, part of the plot is one of the characters feeling nervous. I mean, we can only assume technically about an affair happening. And there are moments where it's like, oh my gosh, does your wife know? Things like that. And this emotional ambiguity lends itself just even further to, we don't know how people are feeling, so we cannot get a solid grasp of how that wife is feeling at any given moment in time, which just puts you in a constant state of fear of whether or not they know, a constant state of tension that feels very immersive and subtly manipulative from Sally Rooney to create this incredible experience through prose that can only be established in the literary medium, which I am growing to love so much every passing year. And that's basically the thesis of my point. If I wanted to get much deeper, I'd have to, ruin my sleep cycle thing that I was planning. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to leave it at there for the most part. But just overall, it's a very, very impressive usage of prose and literary technique to manufacture this state of mind that it can genuinely put you in such a unique way. It feels very much like hearsay, which is an effect that Cormac McCarthy kind of establishes with his lack of quotation marks as well. And it's not like that's the only thing. It's not like that's the linchpin, although it does have a noticeable effect. But there's lots of other important factors that create this effect, and it's just very, very masterfully put together. Yeah. Just, only 100 pages into conversations with friends. Very much enjoying it. Actually, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, I have the class that's talking about this. Another thing that's worth noting is that I turned in all of my homework late. Hopefully you don't get docked points for that. There we go. And then I'm just gonna... Whoops, that was supposed to be smiley face. Alright, good night. Good night, Sally.